Today's lesson is going to focus on achievement goal theory, and we will include goal structure and achievement goals or personal goals within this topic. A goal structure encompasses the policies, the practices, and the messages that are being sent out within an environment, which emphasize either mastery or performance expectations within that environment. Primarily, this includes learning. We often call this mastery. It also includes performance approach and performance avoidance. So we have three constructs rather than four. This motivational climate is usually set by the leadership or the organization, and the instructional practices and goal-related messages that their subordinates or in a classroom setting from a teacher that their students are picking up. Achievement goal theory includes both personal motivation, that would be such as achievement goals or personal goals, and contextual features, which are the goal structures. The theory holds that the prevailing goal structure within an environment, such as a classroom, for instance, will strongly influence the achievement goal or personal goals of the subordinates, or in the case of a classroom, the students. The achievement goal theory is an overarching theory that encompasses the goal orientation that we have talked about in previous lessons. So within achievement goal theory, there's a construct called achievement goals, or better known as personal goals. And this is our intrinsic motivation to pursue a goal. There are two distinct motivations within this theory, and they are mastery, also known as learning, or performance. Now, if we have a motivation of mastery, then we're going to want to focus on competence development. We're going to want to acquire or develop or enhance a particular skill, and that's our motivation for that pursuit. Conversely, there is the performance motivation, and with this intrinsic motivation, we actually want to outperform our peers. And this can be a strong motivator, and of course, we can use it positively, but it can also be negative. So generally speaking, the mastery goal motivation or learning motivation is associated with positive outcomes, and the performance goal motivation can have varied effects. We've discussed this similarly with the performance orientations of approach or avoidance, but similarly, if we have a motivation to perform or outperform our peers, this can certainly lead to a focus and, again, development. It can lead to being focused on fixing strategies and growing, of course. But whenever we encounter the obstacles, which we do, that's where things get a little bit questionable and we can get discouraged. We can quickly go into the performance avoidance, of course. And again, this is still a motivator, so this is still on the personal goal level of construct. So it's a little bit broader, but still very similar, that if we start to encounter obstacles within the performance orientation, then we tend to have the maladaptive outcomes. This brings us to the goal structure conversation within this lesson. So this is a very important part of today's lesson. And we're gonna look at goal structure in three different ways. So there's basically a mastery goal structure, there is a performance goal structure, and there is a performance avoidance goal structure. So this again is within the overarching achievement goal theory. And goal structure is particularly steered by the environment. So the organization, the leadership, or the teacher, as we use a classroom example often. So when we're looking at a mastery goal structure, that structure or that leadership is going to emphasize learning, growing, understanding, and skill development. Within a performance goal structure, the leadership is going to focus on relative ability. So one person's ability compared to another, or your organization compared to another organization. There may also be social comparisons, and of course, a lot of competition. Now, performance avoidance, which sounds very similar, unfortunately, this structure is going to emphasize avoiding failure. So there's going to be penalties, there's going to be fear, and there's going to basically be quite the focus on avoiding looking incompetent. So, as one might expect, within these structures, there's going to be a lot of influence. And so, within a mastery goal structure, research has shown that this type of structure strongly correlates to producing a mastery approach goal orientation, which certainly is very positive. So, this makes sense since this type of goal structure and mastery approach goal orientation both emphasize personal growth and improvement and mastery. So they align well with each other, and we could expect this when we have that sort of goal structure. Within the performance goal structure, it can be more complex. So within this structure, there is going to be basically a correlation with all of the possible goal orientations. So it can vary and it influences each of these goal orientations. So there's actually a correlation with all goal orientations within the performance goal structure. So, and also this does also include the approach and avoidance orientation. So it's quite the complex structure. It has to be very closely monitored. Now, the research has shown very negatively on the performance avoidance goal structure that this is the most influential of all the goal structures. So of the three, if an organization or leader is operating within performance avoidance goal structure, they are going to have the most influence on personal goals. So this suggests that the environment emphasizing avoidance or negative outcomes will very strongly influence individuals to adopt performance avoidance goals, which is exactly what we don't want. This brings us to a quick discussion on how to adjust to our goal structures. The findings by Bardock and his colleagues in their meta-analysis showed that we typically tend to adopt personal achievement goals or personal goals that reflect the prevailing goal structure within our environment. However, the relationship or correlations diminish when we control for personal or intrinsic interest within our goal pursuit. This emphasizes the importance of our purposefulness within our goal pursuit and our actual interest in our efforts. And it also underscores that a goal structure's influence diminishes when we have that mindfulness of what our personal goals actually are. So if we have a goal structure, which we will, and we don't have mindfulness or purposefulness of our goals, then our goals will simply align with whatever the goal structure is that we're operating within. And this is very important to understand that unless we consciously choose our own goals, and we do that purposefully with awareness, then the predefined goal structures that we're operating in will decide our goals for us. This brings us to our takeaways for this week's lesson. So whether you are a subordinate, a student, or a leader, be aware that there are two main goal structures. And these are either structures that you're operating within, or if you're a leader or a teacher, you are creating for others to have to operate within. These structures are either learn or perform. Now, personally, we are typically motivated to either develop our skills, that would be learn, or to outperform our peers. Now, there can be some overlap, but those are basically our two very distinct motivations. And importantly, if we do not consciously choose our goals and our purpose for our efforts, if we don't have a reason for doing what we're doing, then our goal structure will choose our goals for us. And I think that's very important to always keep in mind that if we don't do it purposefully, we will naturally just gravitate toward the goal structure that we're operating within. For today's Action item, I want you to become aware of the goal structure that you're operating within and see how that aligns with your personal goals. So again, with that mindful awareness of what your goals, what your motivations are, and what the goal structure is that you're operating within, you can make adjustments that are needed. Keep in mind that the goal structure and your personal goals do not have to exactly align. Just be aware that if they do not, just make the adjustments that you need to within your goal orientation to make sure that you're approaching your goal pursuit appropriately so as to get the best outcomes. All right, I appreciate you very much. I hope you got a lot out of today's lessons. And remember, you are forging your future one habit at a time. Have a great week.